Hello folks, and welcome to this video. In this video, I want to show how you can create a unique set of random numbers in Google Sheets, and you can set the starting number, the range, the high number, the low number, the high number, and how many random numbers you want to create, and have them all be unique. Now, sometimes, I need a set of random numbers, and I could just do equals rand between, and I could go ahead and do a rand between. And in rand between, you might start at 0 and you might go to 10. And so it's going to create a random number between 0 and 10. And if I copy that down, you'll see I get a random set of numbers, but I also have duplicates in there. So sometimes if I'm wanting to make sure I have unique numbers, a simple rand between is not going to work for me. So we're going to show how we could do this in Google Sheets and get a random set of numbers. We're going to start with first of all the sequence function. So let's go equals sequence. And in this case, if you just put in a number for sequence, say 10, first of all, it's going to error out there because we haven't given enough space. But then I'm just going to get a random set of, a list of numbers between 1 and 10. So we're going to use that function. And let me just title this. This is sequence. And then we're going to use a rand array function. So let's see what that's going to look like. Equals rand array, and in a rand array, you are let's open up and see what you're getting. You're telling it how many rows and columns. Well, in this case, I want 10 rows, and I don't want to name the columns, and you can see that that's an option. So I'll leave that blank. And with rand array and rand between, or my sequence, let's also do a rand between equals rand between, and then we'll do equals rand between. And rand between gives us a low, so we said we're going to start 1, 10, but if I do that, and notice my rand array is changing anytime I make a change to the sheet. So, I can do that, but look at, I get a lot of 6s in there, and I really don't want to, in my array of 10, I don't really want to have that many 6s. So I also want to be able to, in my random numbers, I want to be able to say which is my low. So I'm going to call this low, and I'll call this high, and I'll call this the total. This is how many I want. So I want to be able to use these numbers, low, high, and total in row 2, and be able to name those numbers. So let's go ahead and see how we might do that using our sequence and rand array. So first of all, let's say I want to start with the number 3. I want my high to be 15, and I want to create 6 random numbers. So I'm going to end up using those to create some random set of numbers beginning with 3, high of 15, and total of 6. So with this new set of numbers, what I would like to do is sort them. So we're going to do equals sort, and we're going to sort this array of numbers on column 2, and we'll just have it be ascending, descending, it doesn't really matter, and go ahead and do that. And now notice my sequence is now randomly. I have everything between 1 and 10, but it's showing up randomly because these numbers here are random, and we're sorting on that number there. Let's move this formula down a couple of steps here so we can kind of see what we have here. So we've got our low and our high and our total that we want to return is 6. So how can we introduce that into what we have here, which is giving me the sequence of 10? Well, let's see what happens if we let's remove the sort for the moment. We'll get rid of the sort and do that. And so I see I have 1 through 10. Let's change our sequence. Instead of the sequence being 10, let's have the sequence be this, F2 minus F1, or E minus E2, which is 15 minus 3. And then let's go ahead and hit an enter there. We're going to get an error because we have a mismatched size. So we could do the same thing here and go, let's take the high of 15 minus the low of 3, and that should give us an array of 12. And that's because 15 minus 3 is 12. So that's going to give us this set of numbers that we want to work with. Now that would actually work because if I use that as my starting point, then I could get a set of numbers with a low and a high, and you can see I'd be getting those 12 numbers. The next step then is to figure out how to start with my low of 3 and not have it exceed 15, I mean. Now part of the sequence function, let's take a look at this sequence. Part of the sequence function is how many rows I want. So in this case, I say I want this number of rows, that minus that. And then the next part about it is how many columns. I just want one column. And then the next part of it is, what do you want to start with? Well, I want to start with this. And if I do that, now notice I'm getting this set of numbers, but I'm starting with that 3. So I'm going to go ahead and take that we just created there, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in this formula here, my sequence piece here. Go ahead and paste that in, and then notice now I am working with my low of 3, and my high is 15. I actually am not getting that 15 there, so I guess if I wanted to get that 15, I would actually have to take my sequence and this sequence, I would have to take that and add 1 plus 1. And let's see what that gives me a reference error, so we have to fix that. I guess because we would have to do the same thing here, plus 1. Okay, so now you see that I can get numbers between 3 and 15. So I'm addressing my low, I'm addressing my high, and my rand array is creating the same number of outputs as my sequence. So I'm getting somewhere. Let's go ahead now and wrap this with my sort. So I'm going to sort, and then I'm going to put in a comma, and I'm going to sort on column 2, and I'm going to put in a 1 or a 0. It doesn't really matter, but that is ascending. That's fine. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now I have a random set of numbers between 3 and 15. And here you can see if I do this, I actually have 15 numbers. So I'm generating all the numbers I want. But I want to limit it to only 6. And you can see here that I do have no repeats. There's no duplicates in my list of numbers here. So let's go ahead and figure out the last phase, which is how would I constrain this so that I would only see this total of 6. So another great thing we could do is to actually use the new named function feature in Google Sheets and name this whole function as a new function. I've already done that, so let's take a look at what it looks like. It's my rand unique function that I've created. Let's edit it so we can see how it works. I named it rand unique, and it makes a unique set of numbers based on the values in 3 cells: low, high, and total. And we have low, the arguments, placeholders that are going to be used when you use the formula, low, high, and total. We turned it into a lambda formula so that we could take this formula right here, our formula that we wrote, and you see that formula right here. We took that formula and we swapped out low, high, and total appropriately in the areas where they needed to be. F2's low, E2's high, and so forth. You can see how we've put that in there. And then this is the information that you read when you use the formula. So provide the low end of the range, that's A1, provide the high end, just to give an example, B1, and so forth. We go ahead and update that. And now, rather than having to write this whole formula all over again, I can just use my rand unique, and I got my low and my high and my total, and I hit enter, and there we go. And if I change this to 12, then I get 12 output. If I change this to 50, then my output would be anywhere from 10 to 50 randomly unique numbers between 10 and 50 with an output of 12. So it's a great new way. This function, rand unique, is not a function in regular Google Sheets. It's a named function that we just created, and we can use it and actually import it into a different sheet. So the last phase would be to go ahead and use it somewhere. Let's say I have a sheet, I'm collecting my named functions. Let's go ahead and bring in a named function sheet. So I can import a function, and the way you do that, import a function, go to recent. I believe this is on my char 10 sheet. Go ahead and select. It lists all these different functions I have on char 10, one of which is rand unique. So I can import that. So now I have this rand unique function on another sheet. So what I'll probably do is create a named function sheet and bring in all these functions to a single sheet. And then when I need to add a new named function over to another sheet, I'll just import it from this sheet that I have here so I can keep track of them. So now I could put in on this sheet here my low and my high and my total. And let's move that over here instead and put some numbers in, low of 5, high of 23, and I want to output 11. So now somewhere where I want to use this function, let's just put it right here. I could go equals, and now notice rand unique shows up on this spreadsheet. And if I open this up, it says put in the low, there's my low, there's my high, there's my total. Hit enter, and you can see in this sheet I have 11 numbers output. You can see that if I count that, there's a count of 11. My min is 5, my max is 22. Even though I've set my max at 23, we ended up with getting a 22 there. So great. Named functions, awesome new feature. And again, that used a lambda to create that, and created a new function that I know is going to be really useful for me.